The foam-sealed door of my apartment stands before me like a monument to betrayal. After a 3-day business trip to Sacramento, coming home to find my own front door deliberately sabotaged is the final straw in a month-long family war that I never asked for but am determined to finish. I run my fingers along the hardened yellow substance. My brother Tyler's handiwork, no doubt. The symbolism isn't lost on me. For years, I've kept my door open to my family, financially and emotionally. Now that I've closed it, they've responded by making sure I can't even enter my own space. Standing in this hallway at 8:30 p.m. on a Friday night, my suitcase at my feet, I realize something profound. Family isn't just who you're related to. Family is who treats you with respect. My name is Jasmine Mitchell, and I've just discovered that I have no family at all. Flashback, the family meeting. 2 weeks earlier, I'd sat at my parents' dining table, staring at my father in disbelief. That's it, Mom had said, her voice oddly defensive. The house and lake cottage will go to Tyler and Tiffany. You should understand, honey. You're doing so well financially, and the twins are still finding their way. The lasagna, my favorite that she prepared as a clear manipulation tactic, turned to ash in my mouth. I looked across the table at my 24-year-old siblings, both failing to hide their smug smiles. Just so we're clear, Tyler had said, leaning forward with unearned confidence. Everything goes to us. Everything. The house I'd been helping pay the mortgage on for 4 years. The cottage I'd spent $30,000 renovating just last summer. All of it, going to my perpetually finding themselves siblings. I've always known our parents treated us differently. When I was 12, I was doing my own laundry and learning about saving money. At that same age, the twins were still being tucked in at night. But I never imagined the disparity would be this blatant, this cruel. That's not relevant, Jasmine, Mom had snapped when I mentioned my financial contributions. Family helps family, you know that. The irony of her statement hit me like a physical blow. Yes, family helps family. I'd been helping them for years. I'd paid for both twins' college tuitions. I sent my parents $600 monthly for household expenses, on top of covering their $1,800 mortgage payment. That's $2,400 every month for 4 years, almost $115,000 of my hard-earned money. Dad had stood up abruptly when I pointed this out. I think you should leave, Jasmine. When you've calmed down and can discuss this rationally, we can talk again. Rationally. As if being upset about being used as an ATM for years and then discarded was somehow irrational. I remember driving home that night, memories flooding back of all the sacrifices I'd made. I recalled how in my early 20s, I'd postponed my own dreams to help my parents, believing we were a team. My friends traveled Europe while I sent checks home. I delayed buying my downtown Portland apartment for 2 years to help with the twins' expenses. All this time, I thought I was being responsible, being the good daughter. You're such an idiot, Jasmine, I'd muttered to myself that night as I kicked off my shoes in my entryway. Such a complete and utter fool. At home, the decision. That night after the family meeting, I grabbed a bottle of Cabernet I'd been saving for a special occasion. Well, discovering your family's true colors seemed special enough. I poured myself a generous glass and tried to make sense of what had just happened. Mom and Dad had never been great with money. Growing up, I watched them struggle with credit card debt, always spending just a little beyond their means to maintain the appearance of middle-class comfort. Dad worked as a sales manager at a furniture store, and Mom was an administrative assistant at a dentist's office. They weren't poor, but they weren't financially savvy either. I remember how proud they'd been when I got my business degree and landed a job at Bennett Construction. Our Jasmine is going places, they'd boast to friends and family. What they really meant, I now realized, was that their eldest daughter would become their security net. The twins came later, when Mom was 41 and Dad 43. A surprise blessing, they called it. From the beginning, Tyler and Tiffany were treated differently. Dad, approaching middle age and regretting his own career choices, swore his son would have all the opportunities I never had. Mom, who'd always wanted to be more than a receptionist, projected her unrealized dreams onto Tiffany, encouraging her pursuit of glamorous careers over practical ones. I'd noticed the disparity in treatment but rationalized it. They were just kids. They deserved the advantages I hadn't had. I was already established, already making my way in the world. I could help. But sitting there with my wine, staring at my banking app and the scheduled transfers $1,800 to mom and dad mortgage and $600 to parents' expenses, I finally saw the truth. I wasn't helping. I was enabling. And they weren't grateful. They felt entitled. With a deep breath, I canceled both recurring payments. It was time for the rest of my family to grow up, even if my parents were in their 60s and the twins in their 20s. Then I turned off my phone, finished my wine, and went to bed. I woke the next morning feeling lighter than I had in years. For the first time, I didn't have to worry about setting aside a huge chunk of my paycheck for my parents. I could start saving aggressively for my own future. The confrontation. Exactly 14 days after the disastrous dinner, I received a text from my mother. Jasmine, don't forget the mortgage payment is due today. Also, we need the household money by Friday. The electric bill is higher this month. I stared at my phone in disbelief. Was she serious? After everything that had happened, she was still expecting me to send money, as if cutting me out of the will and insulting me to my face was just business as usual. My reply was simple. I won't be making any more payments for the mortgage or bills. I'm not going to financially support a house that you've made clear I have no stake in. Please make other arrangements. Within 15 minutes, my phone rang. Mom's name flashed on the screen. I took a deep breath, steeling myself before answering. How dare you? She shrieked, skipping any greeting. You can't just stop paying without warning. What are we supposed to do? The old Jasmine would have apologized. The old Jasmine would have found a way to help, despite the hurt. But I wasn't that person anymore. Hello to you too, Mom, I said, keeping my voice calm. And I'm giving you warning now. I won't be making any more payments. You can't do this to us. We're your parents. You have an obligation. I don't, actually, I interrupted. I've been helping voluntarily because I thought we were a family who supported each other. But after learning that you and Dad are leaving everything to Tyler and Tiffany, I realized this arrangement isn't fair to me. This is about the will, she huffed. I knew it. You're just greedy and jealous. Your father and I raised you better than this. Her words stung, but they also clarified something. They'd never see me as anything but a resource to be tapped. In their eyes, I existed to serve the family's needs, specifically, the needs of my younger siblings. No, Mom, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. This is about respect. I've spent years helping all of you financially, and in return, I get cut out of the will and insulted at dinner. I'm done being the family piggy bank. I hung up before she could respond, my hands shaking. The calls started coming in almost immediately. First my mother again, then my father, then both twins. I let them all go to voicemail. Their messages ranged from tearful pleas to vicious insults. Jasmine, please, Dad begged in one message. We can't make the mortgage without you. We'll lose the house. You selfish bastard, Tyler snarled in another. Mom's crying because of you. Hope you're happy. After 2 days of this, I blocked all their numbers. I needed peace. The family campaign. A week after blocking my immediate family, my phone started ringing with calls from relatives I barely spoke to. First, my Aunt Linda, then my cousin Steve, even my father's brother who lived in Arizona. Apparently, my mother had been busy spreading her version of events. Your mom says you're trying to make them homeless, Aunt Linda said when I finally answered one of her calls. What's going on, honey? I took a deep breath and explained the situation, the will, the dinner, and most importantly, the fact that I'd been paying their mortgage for 4 years without anyone in the family knowing. That can't be right, she said, sounding genuinely confused. Your mom told everyone you just helped them with the down payment. I paid every single mortgage payment since they bought the house, I replied, plus extra for bills. You can ask them yourself. Similar conversations followed with other relatives. Some sided with me, some with my parents. If you refused to believe I'd been financially supporting my parents at all, insisting I was lying to make myself look better. My mother had always been skilled at narrative control. Growing up, She'd tell stories about our family to friends and neighbors, carefully edited versions that presented us as the picture perfect American family. Dad was always portrayed as more successful than he was, their marriage happier, their children more accomplished. Now she was using that same skill to paint me as the ungrateful daughter who'd abandoned her aging parents over petty inheritance squabbles. Fed up with the whispers and accusations, I finally posted a detailed explanation on Facebook, laying out the financial support I'd provided over the years and why I decided to stop. I ended it with, I love my family, but I can't keep subsidizing their lifestyle while being treated as an outsider. It's time for me to prioritize my own future. The post generated dozens of supportive comments, but also plenty of criticism. Some relatives thought I was wrong to air family business publicly. Others suggested I should keep paying the mortgage regardless of the will situation because they're still your parents. I closed Facebook and sat on my balcony, looking out at the Portland skyline. When had family become a one-way street? When had my value been reduced to my earning potential? And why had I accepted it for so long? A month passed without any contact from my family. I'd started to think maybe they finally accepted my decision and moved on. Work was busy as usual, and I was finally enjoying the financial freedom of not supporting four extra adults. I'd even put a deposit down on that trip to Italy I'd been dreaming about for years. The funny thing about growing up as the responsible one is that you get used to feeling guilty about prioritizing yourself. Every time I transferred money to my vacation fund instead of my parents' account, I felt a twinge of that old guilt. But it was getting easier. I was getting stronger. The sabotage present time. And now, here I am, staring at a door sealed shut with expanding foam. The locksmith sighs as he examines the damage. Someone really didn't want you getting in, he observes. This is going to be tricky. It takes him almost an hour to cut away enough of the foam to access the lock mechanism. By midnight, I'm finally able to enter my apartment, exhausted and furious. Once inside, I go straight to my laptop. After a package theft 6 months ago, I'd installed a security camera in my hallway. The camera points directly at my front door and uploads footage to a cloud server I can access remotely. I find the relevant time frame and start the playback. At first, there's nothing, just an empty hallway. Then, around 2 p.m. on Thursday, a familiar figure appears. Tyler, wearing a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes and his hoodie up, but I'd recognize his walk anywhere. He looks both ways down the hallway, then pulls a can from his backpack and begins spraying the foam around my door frame. He works methodically, making sure to cover every inch of the lock and the seam where the door meets the frame. When he's done, he steps back to admire his work, then hurries away. I watch the footage 3 times, my anger building with each viewing. This isn't just petty revenge. This is criminal vandalism, and it will cost thousands to repair properly. I think about all the times I've helped Tyler. When he totaled his first car 3 years ago, I gave him $5,000 for a down payment on a new one because he needed reliable transportation for school. I paid his rent when he decided his communications internship was exploitative and quit without notice. I co-signed his student loans. And this is how he repays me. The next morning, I take the video footage to the local police station and file a formal complaint against my brother. Do you have any idea why he would do this? The officer asks as she takes my statement. Financial disputes. I say simply. I don't feel like explaining my entire family drama to a stranger. The officer nods and continues typing. We'll have someone contact him for questioning. In the meantime, do you have somewhere safe to stay if you're concerned about your safety? I'll be fine, I interrupt. I just want him held accountable for the damage. 3 days later, I receive a call from the same officer. Miss Mitchell, we brought your brother in for questioning. He initially denied everything, but when we showed him the video footage, he admitted to vandalizing your door. Good, I say, feeling a grim satisfaction. What happens now? We've charged him with criminal mischief and property damage. Given the cost of repairs, it's a more serious charge. He could be looking at fines and possibly probation. I thank her and hang up. Almost immediately, my phone rings again. It's a number I don't recognize, but I answer anyway. Jasmine, what have you done? It's my father, his voice trembling with rage. The police arrested Tyler. Your own brother. They didn't arrest him, Dad. They brought him in for questioning after I filed a complaint about him vandalizing my apartment. He's just a kid. He made a mistake. He's 24 years old, I reply flatly, and his mistake is going to cost over $3,000 to fix properly. The building manager says they'll have to replace the entire door and frame. This is how you treat family? By calling the police on them? The question hangs in the air. This is exactly how I treat people who violate my boundaries and destroy my property, family or not. Something my father has never understood is that respect should be the foundation of any relationship, especially family ones. Family doesn't vandalize each other's homes, Dad. There's a pause before he speaks again, his voice lower. What do we need to do to make this go away? $3,000 for the repairs. I say immediately. Pay for what he destroyed, and I'll withdraw the complaint. That's extortion. That's consequences, I correct him. Tyler destroyed my property, and now he needs to pay for it, or he can deal with the legal system. His choice. My father hangs up without another word. The next day, my mother calls. Unlike my father, she doesn't yell. Instead, her voice is cold and cutting. I never thought you'd sink this low, she says, using the police to get revenge on your own family. It's not revenge, Mom. It's holding Tyler accountable for his actions. He was upset. We all are. You've left us struggling to make ends meet after we relied on your help for so long. The mortgage company is threatening foreclosure. I bite back a sarcastic response. I'm sorry you're having financial difficulties, but that doesn't give Tyler the right to vandalize my home. She's quiet for a moment. And if we pay, you'll drop the charges? Yes. Fine, she says tersely. We'll send you the money, but don't expect anything else from us ever again. I nearly laugh at the irony. That was already made perfectly clear at our family dinner, Mom. Epilogue, 6 months later. 2 days after my conversation with Mom, I received a bank transfer for exactly $3,000. I contacted the police and told them I didn't want to press charges anymore. The officers sounded disappointed but said she understood. Family situations can be complicated, she said sympathetically. You have no idea, I replied. With the money from my parents, I was able to get my door properly repaired. The building manager was understanding but suggested I might want to consider additional security measures. I upgraded my camera system and added a second lock, just to be safe. 6 months have passed since I last had any direct contact with my family. According to Aunt Linda, who still calls me every few weeks, my parents are struggling badly with their mortgage. They've depleted most of their retirement savings trying to keep up with the payments. Your mom's waitressing at that diner near their house, she told me during our last call. Morning shifts. And your dad's working at the hardware store 6 days a week now. They're barely making ends meet. She paused, and I knew what was coming next. The guilt trip. The suggestion that I should help them, just one more time. Instead, she surprised me. I'm proud of you, Jasmine. It couldn't have been easy to stand up to them like that. I felt my throat tighten. It wasn't. Your mother was the same way with me growing up, she continued. Always taking, never giving back. Some people are just wired that way. They don't see it as using people. They see it as their due. According to Aunt Linda, Tyler and Tiffany aren't helping their parents at all. Tyler picked up a retail job, but quit after 3 weeks because the manager was totally unreasonable about him showing up on time. Tiffany occasionally babysits for neighbors, but spends most of her days planning a lifestyle blog that never seems to launch. The worst part, Aunt Linda said, is that your parents still blame you for everything. Your mom tells anyone who'll listen that you abandoned them when they needed you most. I just smiled and changed the subject. I no longer care what they say about me. My life has never been better. I got promoted to senior director last month with a substantial raise. I took that trip to Italy and have another vacation planned to Japan in the spring. My apartment now has a proper home office where I can work in peace. I've made new friends through my hiking group, and I've been dating someone interesting for the past 2 months. Sometimes, when I'm standing on my balcony watching the sunset over the river, I think about my family and feel a pang of sadness for what could have been. But it passes quickly. For the first time in my adult life, my money is my own, my time is my own, my future is my own, and no amount of expanding foam can seal that away from me.